it's Juliet here with my beautiful messy life. You would not believe how many times I have tried to record this video for you guys, and it's just an update. It's just a little update on how we've been getting on. And now I'm parked in the car waiting for my daughter, and she's going to turn up any minute now, and I'm going to have to pick up where I left off when we get back home. So I'm looking out the window. If you can see me looking all over the place, it's because I'm very self-conscious about talking in the car at this time of day because there are so many people around. I have written a blog post. It's entitled How I Liberated My Body from the Mirena Coil. And so I'll get into that a little bit later, but if you're interested to find out what I'm talking about there, then do hang around. Couple of little life updates for you. I have been busy with the beginnings of my mini micro pop-up bakery that I have started. I didn't actually know I was starting it. It just kind of was me offering some sourdough baked breads locally and many people taking me up on having a loaf, and so it seems to have blossomed and bloomed and blown away with me. I am struggling to keep up with the amount of orders that I'm getting, which is absolutely fantastic, but it's all a learning curve, and I actually only have a UK style range cooker, which is like a modern version of an auger, I suppose, but it's nothing like an auger really, is it? But it's a double oven, so I've got an oven on either side. But here in the UK, our ovens are incredibly tiny, especially in comparison to some of the videos that I've been watching and learning from of women and indeed men that are doing a similar thing to me stateside, and so I can only fit one Dutch oven into each of my ovens, whereas I'm watching people that are putting two into each, and that just wouldn't happen. I just couldn't close the door. So I'm toying with open baking as well, which I normally do for normal breads, but if you know things about sourdough, you'll know that normally you're trying to create a steamed environment. So I am playing with that at the moment so that I can try to bake more loaves at a time. Ultimately, my priority is my being a homemaker, being a mother and home educating my children, and those are my top priorities. They're not just my responsibilities, they are my top priorities. So my micro bakery pop-up sourdough business, if you like, it is just very, very teeny. So that's the first bit of news. The second bit of news is, for those of you who have followed me for a while, you will know by now that I am also a self-published poet and author, and my second book based around home education, called Against the Grain, has been out for a little while now, and I've not really had a chance to kind of market it or advertise it in very many places. It was kind of like a labour of love for me. It was something that I wanted to just get all my thoughts out of my head after doing this for so long, and I wanted to put them all down in a book. More so really, it's like a journal. In fact, the subheading is The Journey and Journals of a Home Educator, and I wanted to kind of document that, not only for me but for my children as they grow up, and also to help anybody in the future who may wish to read it and gain some inspiration, insight or advice from it. But ultimately it is a book that's for sale, so I wanted to I've been slowly trying to advertise that this book is out there, and just recently two things have happened. One that I can't actually talk about at the moment because it wouldn't be right for me to talk about it right now, but eventually I will be able to discuss that part. But the second part, or the first bit that's actually happened that's really exciting, is our local authority has picked up my book and has included it on their list of recommended reading for new home educators, existing home educators in our county, and so that's absolutely fantastic. And they wrote to me recently and said that they'd included it on their recommended reading list, and I was just so happy. It's just, you know, it's one of those yes moments. So I was really you know, a bit proud of myself. It was a book that I wrote and released not long after my father had had his stroke, and he was very, very poorly, and I can remember going in with my book. There was my poetry book and this book that I'd actually published, and I kind of juggled him and everything going on with our family and my dad at the time, and writing this book at the same time, and so once it was published, he got to see that before he died. And so it's just one of those, yeah, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud that I was able to place it in my dad's hands, and that he knew that I wasn't just a poet, I was also an author as well. So there we go. Yes, so that's the second piece of exciting news for me. I'm going to get on to my coil story in a moment, but I can see my daughter's coming now, so I'm going to down phones, drive home, and I'll pick back up when we get there. So I'm back in the bedroom now. In the bedroom, it's too wet to sit in the garden, and I really wanted to do a video out there because I was going to have a nice cup of tea in the sunshine, but there is no sunshine. It's just grey and miserable and raining again. So back up in the bedroom. The next thing I was going to talk to you about was my my Mirena Coil. So basically, I have written a blog post over on the website beautiful-messy.com if you want to go over there and read all about it. But basically, I had started, it's quite a long story, but I want to keep it as short as I possibly can for you, and if you're interested and you want to read about it, then you can go over to the blog and have a little read. So for quite some time, I have been a little disenchanted with my contraceptive choices, and especially as I am nearing towards my mid-40s. I'm going to be 43 this year, so not quite mid-40s yet, but on the way. And those of you that have been following me for a while will know that I had some blood tests to see if I was indeed entering perimenopause, because I had been experiencing quite a few symptoms, if that's the right word, that would suggest that was the case. And I had been having some breakthrough bleeding. I had been having night sweats, brain fog like you wouldn't believe, and I still have that now. That's something that's not gone away. And also skin, hair changes, itchy legs at night time, insomnia, all sorts of different things. And so I thought that maybe, especially once I started having some breakthrough bleeding, I thought that actually there might be an issue with my Mirena Coil that I had fitted 4.5, nearly 5 years ago. So just to go back a little bit, when I had my fourth child, I had the Mirena Coil, it fitted, implanted, whatever you call it, not long after she was born. And I'd never had a coil before, and it suited me quite well. At that point in my life, it was something I could, it was there and I could forget about it, didn't have to worry about it. I'd got 4 children, 5 years and under, and I just couldn't be sure that I was going to be reliable enough to take a contraceptive pill, I always had been before, so I hadn't got form for forgetting, but I felt that actually now my days were even more hectic, and mornings times when I was taking my pill were incredibly busy, and I might become forgetful and not take a pill, or forget to take a pill or whatever. So with small children to get breakfast for, and a baby and this, that and the other. So I had the coil fitted, and then after, when it was fitted, it was licensed for 3 years, and my periods stopped very quickly, and I didn't ever actually feel very comfortable with that, because for me, having my periods might sound a little bit strange, but having my periods makes me feel reassured that my body is working in the way that it should be, that it's naturally doing what it should be doing, and also it makes me feel womanly. So, you know, there will come a day when my periods cease and I have menopaused, and so while I am able to have them, I don't enjoy having them, but I would like to have them. So yes, so I had my coil inserted and my periods ceased, and at the time I think I was about 29, and I thought, oh well, never mind, you know, we'll just get on with it. And then after several years, 3 years to be precise, we decided that actually we would like to grow our family some more. And I went to have my coil removed and not to have a new one put in, so that we could try to conceive again. And when I went to have it removed, it had taken weeks to get an appointment. It was like they just didn't want... They were trying to avoid taking it out. It was something that was low priority. And then once I actually did get an appointment to see the GP to have my coil removed, they couldn't find the strings. And I can remember just this cold chill, and just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, you know, all the horror stories that you hear online or from people, you know, and I thought, oh my gosh, this thing is gone off, and it's ravaged my insides, and now what will I do if I no longer have the choice, you know, if there's a problem and I no longer have the choice to try to conceive another child. And we'd been so excited. So I was very, very worried, unnecessarily so, I must say, unnecessarily so, because when I went for an ultrasound, they found the coil exactly where it was meant to be. The strings were, I nearly called them kite strings then, because that's what I affectionately call them in my poetry. And so they located the strings and removed the coil. And I must say that while my story progresses, and you'll find out what I did, in the time that I did have the coil, having it implanted and having it removed by the medical professionals was never an issue for me. While it was in, there were up until recently, I never had any issues with it, because I didn't know to have any issues with it. And having it inserted, having it fitted, was not painful for me at all. I know that there are many women and many stories out there that are terrifying about women, you know, doubled over in cramps and just having the most terrible experience possible having these things inserted and removed. And I'm not saying that isn't the case. What I am saying is that for me personally, in my body, that was never an issue, and although there was some mild discomfort, it was very, very quick during the fitting, and it was as I say, very short-lived and over and done with. You know, I'm quite good at being very realistic. You know, I was agreeing to the procedure that was being done. I was fully aware of what was going to happen, what it was all for, and also I was very relaxed. And I think after having 4 children, you kind of have to know by then how to relax yourself, and so it wasn't an issue for me. So the coil that we couldn't find the strings was located, everything was fine, it was removed, and we went on to conceive our 5th child. And then for some reason I decided, more out of habit, I think then I'd got used to having it, I went back to the doctors and had another coil fitted, and they told me that now the license had been extended on the Mirena coils and that it was a 5-year one. And I can remember thinking, crikey, you know, that's a long time to have this little piece of equipment inside doing its job. You know, science is amazing. So you know, I wasn't starstruck with the thing, but I was impressed that they had, you know, made progress with it and that it lasted longer. And didn't really feel any need to question anything at that point. And so then the years passed, and we decided once again that actually we thought we might like to try for one more baby. And so again, I had difficulty. My coil wasn't due to be replaced, so I was making an appointment just to have it removed to try to conceive. And we had difficulty getting an appointment again. We were told it was going to be 5 or 6 weeks, and then when finally the appointment came round once again, they could not locate, and it was a different nurse, different doctors this time, and they couldn't locate the strings. And this time I was a little bit more relaxed about it, didn't panic so much. Went home and tried to locate them myself, and I could feel where the strings were, but I thought they might have been able to see them better, to be honest, but there wasn't. It was reassuring for me to be able to feel that the strings were indeed there. And so then I had another appointment, and they had another go, and the coil was actually removed then, painlessly. And then we went on to conceive my 6th child. And then, even though I'd had this trouble, which had thankfully always turned out okay, I went back again and had another coil. And I was told that the 5-year license was still what it was. So then I started to notice things. So once I entered into my 40s, I started to notice symptoms that made me feel as if I was perhaps perimenopausal. And although I haven't actually ruled that out, in spite of having blood tests, which is what I was talking about earlier, I did have some blood tests, and you have 2. You must have 2. Don't let them tell you that you've had 1 and the levels are fine and that's it. You must have a repeat blood test 6 weeks, I think it is, later. So that they can compare different times of your cycle. And so I had my blood tests, and the levels that they were looking for of the different hormones were as they should be, and they said, actually, we don't think that you are going through the menopause at the moment. Yes. So anyway, I had, as I say, been experiencing lots of different things, and I'd started to become quite down with it. I like to be very in touch with my body. I think as humans, living in the world that we live in right now, let me just close the door, I've got all sorts of music playing. There's music blaring out all over the place. Yes, I think that living in the world as we know it now, there are many things that prevent our natural bodies and minds and spirits from connecting with the earth, and also healing, finding peace, those kind of things. And I'm very big on embracing being natural and having as natural an outlook as possible as you can live in this day and age. I don't think that we should lose touch with too much of what was before, if that makes sense. I won't embellish on that. I think you will understand what I mean. So I started to look into the possibility of perhaps having my coil removed. Because there were several things that had started to bother me aside from the symptoms that I was having. And one of those things was that as I am getting older, I didn't want to enter into perimenopause, possibly go through the menopause, have my coil taken out and realise that it was all done. Now, don't get me wrong, those people who've gone through the menopause will be laughing at me now saying, goodness me, you'll know if you're... you'll know if you're going through the menopause. And actually I agree with that, because I certainly felt like that was the direction I was headed in. I've just had to plug the battery and my phone's going again. So yes, I didn't doubt for one moment that if I was going through the menopause, I was going to know that I was probably going through that transition. And having the coil is obviously an option for women who are going through that phase. So I didn't want to have that. I wanted to experience what I'm naturally meant to experience, not ruling out the fact that I may need HRT at some point or want it, but that I wanted to certainly be entering into it knowingly. And so then I started to look very closely at natural birth control. So one of the other things that had been bothering me was my moods that had been getting progressively lower and lower over the past 18 months. And obviously I've had a lot going on with my dad and various other private family matters, but I generally deal with stress quite well. And so although these may well have been symptoms, after effects, results of being stressed, I wasn't entirely sure that my moods were not picking up the way they should. And one of the other things that I noticed certainly being on the Mirena Coil and not having my periods as regular was that I would, every cycle, I would get all wound up and the tension would build, just as you would expect it to, but rather than dissipating quite nicely like a water balloon being burst when that time of the month comes, that wouldn't happen because I wouldn't have a time of the month. So I would feel all the tension, all the build-up, all the irritability, and then it was almost as if there was a large air-filled balloon and somebody had got the neck and they were just gently tweaking and so that the air could only just squeak out and it would go down so slowly. And I felt like I was just so wound up and tense most of the time. The next thing that happened was that I had my smear test after having this coil for about 4 years, and the nurse said to me, I can see your strings, so we won't have any problems this time. Next time when you have your coil changed, she said everything looks as it should be. And she did the smear test, and then she said, oh, and just to let you know, the coil is now licensed for 8 years. So I said, oh crikey, that is a long time to have that, and I wasn't really very on board with that personally for my own personal choice. But I said, well, that's amazing, isn't it? I said, well, my coil is due to be replaced in a year's time, so I assume then if I opt to have another one, I'll have a new 8-year licensed one put in. And she said, oh no, your coil that you've got now, it's been, the license has been extended, it's now 8 years. And that just did not feel right to me at all. And then at that point, there was nothing I could do during my smear test. So over the next few months, I then started to notice this breakthrough bleeding, and I went back to the GP and I had my blood tests and they came back negative. And I said, well, if it's not perimenopause, then I am concerned about the efficiency of my Mirena Coil that is coming up for what would have been its 5-year mark, ready for a change, and I'm not comfortable. And it was kind of brushed off that they didn't think that was the issue because the license is, as I say, 8 years now. I was sent home, and I'd mentioned my moods and things like that and all the other symptoms I'd been having, and I wouldn't say it wasn't taken seriously, but it wasn't, it was something, go away and monitor it, was the message I was given. So one evening, I was particularly low. Mr. Lemon was away, and I decided that actually I had enough of feeling like I was not in control of any part of my natural womanhood, with my contraceptive choices, with how I was feeling. I didn't feel like I was being taken seriously at that point, and that my complaints and concerns were being listened to. And so I worked up the courage, did a little bit of research for myself, went into the bathroom and removed the Mirena Coil myself. And it was a very swift, quick, painless thing that I did. I basically just did what the nurse would have done at the GP surgery. Now, at this point, I will say I am not medically trained in any way, shape or form. I'm telling you about an experience that I had that involved my body, and I am not recommending that anybody take these kind of matters into their own hands without proper research or discussing it with their medical professional. I know my body and you know your body, and I'm not an expert on your body. So, as a disclaimer there, this is not a video for me saying, everybody should rush out and remove the Mirena coils. That's certainly not what I'm recommending. It's not a recommendation at all. I am just simply telling you my experience and what I did. So moving on from that. From the moment, it was quite an emotional experience, because from the moment that I removed it, I felt, the only words to describe it are liberated and empowered. I felt, it was emotional. I cried once I'd got this thing out, and I was holding it in my hand. And, in many ways, I was thankful for the work that it had already done for me. It had served a purpose, but it was no longer... It was no longer something that I felt comfortable with, and I had been told that I'd got to wait to have it removed and things like that, and I just wanted to kind of take back charge of my body and myself, and so that's what I did. And it was an important time for me, I think. It's certainly, going forward, it's certainly been very good for me to have removed that. What I have noticed since removing my coil is that my skin has improved. My night sweats have disappeared completely. My moods have... My periods returned immediately, which was very welcome, and I was really pleased with that. My cycles now have returned to normal, in that I now have normal PMS, the same as everybody else. If I'm, my moods generally are a lot lighter, a lot more hopeful. I don't seem to be frustrated or desperate feeling at all anymore at certain times of the month. I definitely know if I'm feeling irritable. I can check my cycle now, and I know what the reason for that might be. It might be that somebody's just annoying me. It might not have anything to do with my hormones. It might have everything to do with the person standing in front of me, but it could be something to do with my cycle, and so I'm obviously more aware of that. And obviously me and Mr. Lemon need to take extra precaution if we don't want to have any more children. And I'm getting older now, my children are growing up, we're entering a new phase in our lives. This is the longest I've been without a baby. My youngest is 5 years old now, so we're entering new territory, and I am blown away by just paying more attention to my body and monitoring, tracking, recording down the different ways in which my body tells me that I am entering a fertile period, or that indeed that I'm ovulating or have ovulated. And there are so many different ways that I can monitor that and track that. And you know, you do have to be quite strict with yourself in that, you know, you need to take it seriously if you're naturally using natural birth control. So it's working really well for us, and I just wanted to tell you about it because it has made such a difference to my general well-being, I think. And now going forward, I can enter into the next phase of my womanhood feeling freer and unaltered at this point in my life. And whatever choices I make in the future, having the Mirena Coil is very unlikely to be one of them, especially given that most of my emotional, mental health issues seem to have lightened considerably since the removal of the coil. So there we are. Now I am going to just go and sort my children out, and I'll pop back on a little bit later just to finish up. So I didn't get a chance yesterday to come back on and finish up for you because the day ran away with me and the girls had got sports club. And this morning I've been busy prepping and mixing and stretching all the breads for tomorrow's bake day. I need to get up at baker o'clock in the morning to get those breads out. I'm a little bit nervous. So anyway, the girls, we are currently in a big motivation boom. So the girls are really motivated now that the summer's well in, even though you wouldn't know it, it's still all grey outside. But they're very motivated to do things. They are, let me see if I can, actually I don't want to show you that. So they're doing some weaving, and I was just going to show you one of the girls, but I'll have to put a photo of it on Instagram for you when it's finished, because it's actually a gift. So if I put it on here now and then a certain somebody watches it, I can show you this one. Actually I've just found, so this one is also a gift, but I know that this particular person won't mind this being seen. So the girls are just using these cards at the moment, and they're doing some just plain weaving for the little ones, and Ashley is trying something a little bit more intricate. So yes, they're just having fun with those. River can do those absolutely fine on her own. She's 5 and she can manipulate that. It's easy for her, but even though it's easy, it's still enjoyable, and she's actually creating something that is worthwhile. So whilst it's lovely to do crafts and get the toilet paper rolls out and make little figures and hanging decorations and things like that, it's always even so much nicer if you can make something that's going to be used by somebody else or kept for a long time. So yeah, I love handicrafts for the girls, especially when they can pick them up really quickly and get on with them without much help from me, because that just empowers them to and spurs them on. It it encourages them to do more. Are you okay? Yeah.
Can I please have something to eat?
I'll come and sort you out in a few minutes, okay? I'll come and sort you out in a few minutes. River has eaten me out of house and home. She's always snacking, bless her. I'm struggling out of things to give her. Maybe some dry cereal in a cup now. She's had everything else. So the girls, yes, as I say, they are doing some handicrafts. They are... I'm trying to think what their days are looking like at the moment, because it changes from one week to the next sometimes. What are they focusing on? Ashley is focusing on her maths app that she likes to do, or rather she perhaps doesn't like to do it, but it's a means to an end for her, because she would like to take a maths course next year. So she is doing this in preparation for that. So that's something that she wants to work on to make sure that she's where she feels she will need to be in order to go on and do the course that she actually wants to take. She's also working on her IGCSE language course, which I've already spoken to you about before. And she's also started taking a creative writing course as well. And those things keep her busy on Tuesdays. And then obviously if she has any homework that's set by those particular tutors, she can do that in her time when she wants to. But she still enjoys doing the things that we've always done, so she'll join us for things like read alouds or poetry tea times and things like that we do. River was just talking about that before I came on, saying that she'd like to do some baking. So I said, well, actually on Friday we were thinking of having a poetry tea time. We've not done one for ages, so we'll make some cakes for that and it will be nice and fun. So Ashley likes to join in with those things still, and she also trying to think what else she does. Oh, she set herself a challenge this year of reading so many books. I'm not even sure how many books she said that she wants to read, but the pile goes from the floor or halfway up her chest of drawers, and she's cracking on with that. So most days she's found reading, and one of the really sweet things is that on the weekends she takes herself out with her hammock and finds a spot locally where she thinks she might not be disturbed and sits in the sunshine, swinging in the branches of the trees in a hammock reading a book. So that's really nice as well. So she's getting a lot out of that, I think, and obviously, you know, it doesn't need to be said that she's improving her reading skills, her comprehension, all those tick box things that some people are really interested in. You know, she's really and it's widening her broadening her horizons as well. She's reading a wide range of books that she's chosen for herself. So yeah, she's cracking on with that. Oh, I'm actually reading with Ashley. So we have our read alouds, and then I have some books that I read aloud to the girls individually. And the reason why I might do that is because some of the books I've read to Ashley, for example, a couple of times maybe, and I want to share the same books with Winter because I think that she will enjoy those particular ones. But Ashley has either grown tired of those stories, she doesn't want to hear them again so soon, or she has just outgrown them. And so there are books we read together and then books that I will read to them individually. And one of the ones that I'm reading to Ashley at the moment is A Briefer History of Time, and we got this one because this is kind of like the brief history of time for dummies, but we're still challenging our way through this. We read a couple of pages and then we try to make sense of a lot of what's going on in here, but it's working fine. We're learning a lot, and it's very interesting. We love Stephen Hawking, just fabulous. So yeah, anything that he had to say was worth pondering on, I think. I know, but we didn't buy any because the shop didn't have any, so I will I'm finding Wednesdays really stressful at the moment until I get more into the swing with things. I can feel my brow furrowing. River is trying to, bless her little heart, demand back the time that I'm now spending on my baking. So when I need to really be thinking, because I'm doing measurements and things like that, obviously there's only so much that I can allow her to help me with when it's not just baking for ourselves in the home, which should be enjoyable and fun for her. And so I've had to explain to her that actually Mummy's working doing this now as well as the other things that I normally do, that most mummies and daddies normally do, but that this is really important that I have some extra time now to be able to do this in order to pull it off. But unfortunately she hasn't quite got that yet, and so she's trying to claim that time back, and it is a little bit, I feel guilty. So I've got the mum guilt now going on as well as everything else. But where were we? Right, Now, Twelfth Night, this is something that, this is a play that I'm going to be reading with Ashley. This book is actually the play. We've just read the narration version, the story version, the narrative, I don't know how you say it. So we've just read that so that she's familiar with the plot, and now we're going to read that together. Now we're also reading our way through, this is a textbook, which we don't use many of these together. So I have some in order to help me help the children if they ask me questions about things, just so that I can give them a quicker answer than oh, well, let's wait till we go to the library next, or such and such might know, we'll wait to ask them. And I don't always like referring them online. I think it's nice to be able to research in all different ways. So I have some textbooks that I keep, you perhaps see them on the shelf behind me, that I use to help me to help the girls. But this is a textbook that me and Ashley are actually sharing together. Again, we're working very slowly through it. I think we're probably only about 10 pages in, and we've been looking at it for weeks. But basically, it's for the IGCSE course, but we're not actually, unless she really wants to by the end of it, we have no plans for her to actually take the exam. We're literally just reading through the content and learning new things, and it's very fascinating. Ashley often has a lot of questions about people, the way we think, why we do the things we do, and so on. And so I thought that might be a good stepping stone if ever she wanted to take or look into some kind of psychology course or something like that. That might be give her a good grounding in the social side of things. But I'm reading Sarah Plain and Tall to Winter, which is a book that I've shared with Ashley before, and I believe I might have shared it with Ashley and Winter before, but Winter couldn't remember it, so I wanted to read it to her again. And it's such a lovely little story that a child could read themselves if they were of that ability. They would enjoy it and flick through it quite quickly. Winter's not quite there yet to read it on her own, although she can read some of it with me. It's about a father who has lost his wife, and after many years he decides that he needs some extra help. I think their housekeeper has left or retired, and he needs some extra help around the small holding so that he can work, and the children can be taken care of, and so can the house. So he places an advertisement in the newspaper for a wife, and lo and behold, Sarah answers the ad. She lives by the seaside, and she comes to see if the family will be a good fit for her, and vice versa. And it's just a really sweet story. And as an adult reading it, I wouldn't say it's highly emotional, but it's sweet. It's a sweet story. So that's a book I'm reading with Just Winter. Together we are reading about Christopher Columbus, and this has been awesome for getting out the atlases, looking at the map on the wall, getting the globe out. We've been doing, this is where the idea of the weaving came from. His mother was the daughter of a weaver, and that's it. That's as much as we learn about his mother, who was the daughter of a weaver. But that made me write, get the weaving out. And so I wrote that down as I was reading along. And also the girls have been making their own maps, their own fictional maps. So they were just ideas that came from reading that. We're really enjoying it. It's quite a good story, actually, and based on true events. What are we also sharing together? We're sharing The Wind in the Willows for River, which we are thoroughly enjoying the adventures of Ratty, Mole and Toad and Badger as well. So we are halfway through that, and I'm also reading to the girls The Cuckoo Sister by Vivian Alcock, which is a book that I read when I was a young girl, and then got the audio for it so that I could read along with that. And I think I've still got the cassette tape upstairs somewhere, but I absolutely loved this story when I was younger. So I'm reading it to the girls, and I'm so thrilled because they are actually loving it as well. It's all about a mother and father whose baby was snatched. when she was very young, and they end up having another daughter. And then one day there is a knock on the door, and there's a girl standing outside with a letter for the mother that says, "This is the baby that was snatched, and I'm returning her to you." And the story goes on. So that's about really where we are with books at the moment. So I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks very much for joining me. Take care. Bye bye.